Welcome to Velvet Karma Stories, where every story has a touch of karma.
The chandelier light shimmered like 1,000 eyes inside the Plaza Hotel ballroom. Journalists, investors, and influencers crowded under the gold dome, raising champagne glasses to the sound of a live orchestra. Everyone came to celebrate Reed Technologies' new partnership with Cartier. But no one expected that the most expensive thing unveiled that night wouldn't be a diamond necklace. It would be betrayal. Lauren Hayes stood near the marble pillar, one hand resting gently on her belly. 6 months pregnant, she had put on her best navy gown, the same one Carter had once said made her look like the woman of a Fortune 500 CEO. She believed tonight was his moment, their moment. But as the spotlight moved to the stage, Carter Reed, her husband, the young star of Wall Street, walked in holding another woman's hand. The room gasped in waves. Cameras clicked like gunfire. Carter smiled wide, introducing Sloan Vega, the new face of Reed Technologies' campaign. "She represents the fresh vision of our company," he said, voice smooth as a rehearsed script. The audience applauded, not realizing Lauren was right there, invisible under the glittering lights. Naomi Brooks, Lauren's closest friend and a lawyer, gripped her wrist. "Don't react," she whispered. "They want this to look clean." But Lauren's iPhone buzzed non-stop, notifications from gossip pages exploding. Carter Reed debuts model girlfriend at Cartier Gala. She turned toward the mirrored wall and caught her own reflection. Her mascara smudged, her breathing shallow. Behind her, people murmured. Wasn't his wife pregnant? He moved on fast? PR stunt, maybe? Every word pierced like glass. A few feet away, a tall man in a black tuxedo watched quietly from the shadows. The kind of presence that didn't need introduction. Gabriel Sterling, billionaire investor and Carter's main competitor, noticed the scene. His jaw tightened. He had seen Carter manipulate stories before, but this was cruelty sold as branding. When the applause ended, Lauren tried to slip out unnoticed. But a photographer caught her face mid-tear. The next morning, that picture would circulate with the caption, "Pregnant wife left alone at her husband's gala." Carter didn't even look her way. He lifted Sloane's hand high, smiling for the cameras, his Rolex flashing under the crystal light. Lauren's chest constricted. The same watch she had given him on their anniversary, now part of his power couple image. She moved toward the exit, heels echoing on marble floors. Behind her, a PR assistant whispered to another, "He told us not to seat his wife. Said it would confuse the message." The phrase "confuse the message" repeated in her mind until it didn't sound human anymore. Outside, the cold Manhattan air hit her face. Snow began to fall softly, melting on her shoulders. She clutched her clutch bag tighter, as if it could hold her together. The city lights blurred through tears. For the first time in years, she realized she had nowhere to go. Not the penthouse Carter now shared with Sloan, not the home in Connecticut she'd left behind for his career. Across the street, through the limo glass, Gabriel watched her step onto the sidewalk. He told his driver to wait. Something in the way she stood, dignified even while shattered, caught him. Inside the ballroom, Carter raised another toast, laughing beside Sloan, oblivious that the photo of his pregnant wife standing alone outside the plaza would be trending by morning. Lauren turned away from the hotel lights, whispering to herself, "This isn't the end." And somewhere in the dark limousine, a voice murmured quietly, "No, Mrs. Reed. This is where your story truly begins." Morning light spilled across the floor of the Park Avenue penthouse like a lie. Lauren sat on the gray velvet couch, her suitcase open, half packed with baby clothes and ultrasound pictures. Carter's lawyer had emailed her at dawn, one short message with 3 cold words, "Read the prenup." She opened her MacBook Air, fingers trembling. The PDF glowed on the screen, 22 pages she had signed 2 years ago without reading. Carter had said, "It's just a formality, babe. My investors require it." Back then, she trusted him. He was charming, ambitious, the man who brought her Starbucks every morning and promised, "We'll build an empire together." Now she saw the truth written in legal English. If she left, or if he filed first, she'd walk away with nothing. No shares, no property, no support. Even her name on the penthouse lease was temporary occupancy. It wasn't a marriage contract. It was an eviction notice waiting to happen. Her phone rang. Naomi's voice was sharp, protective. "Don't panic. I'm reading it too. There's a loophole, Section 14. If he used company funds for personal affairs, the contract's void. Lauren blinked. Company funds? Naomi's tone dropped. If he paid for that model's trip, that's your lifeline. Just then, the door lock beeped. Carter stepped in, wearing his tailored black suit and an expression that didn't belong to the man she once loved. He didn't even glance at her belly. I've arranged for movers to come by noon, he said, typing on his iPhone without looking up. Lauren stood. You're kicking me out? I'm carrying your children. He finally looked at her, cold, detached. Don't make this ugly. You'll get a settlement for appearances. That's more than fair. Appearances? She repeated. I'm not a press release, Carter. His jaw tightened. You never understood business. Love doesn't scale. Optics do. Something inside her broke quietly. She walked into the bedroom and saw that the family photos were gone. The silver frame of their wedding picture replaced by a blank spot on the nightstand. The closet had been emptied of his suits. He'd already moved out. Moved on. A moving truck idled outside. She packed what she could. The ultrasound prints, her wedding ring, a small Amazon box filled with newborn socks she'd ordered last week. Each item felt heavier than gold. Naomi arrived minutes later, heels clicking across the marble floor. He's freezing your cards, she said quickly. I saw the bank alert. Lauren nodded, handing her the contract. Let him. I'll survive. Carter stood at the doorway, impatient. Don't drag this out, Lauren. The press already thinks we separated months ago. Naomi turned sharply. You should worry less about the press and more about the SEC when they find out you used company money for personal image branding. Carter smirked. Empty threat. You don't have proof. Lauren zipped the suitcase and met his eyes one last time. I used to believe you were ruthless because you wanted success. Now I see. You were ruthless because you wanted control. He stepped closer, whispering, You'll regret crossing me. She stared back. I already do. Naomi took her hand. Together they left the penthouse. The elevator doors closed, sealing the life she once had behind mirrored glass. Outside, snow dusted the steps. Lauren tightened her coat, feeling the weight of her unborn children. Where now? Naomi asked. Lauren exhaled, watching her breath fade into the Manhattan air. Somewhere honest, she said softly. Across the street, through tinted glass, Gabriel Sterling's car idled again, same as that night at the plaza. His driver asked, Sir, do we follow her? Gabriel hesitated, then nodded once. Yes, but not too close. Because for the first time, someone wasn't watching her to judge. He was watching to protect. The River Cafe shimmered beneath the Brooklyn Bridge, its glass windows glowing like candlelight against the East River. Snow drifted softly outside as the skyline of Manhattan reflected on the water. Lauren sat alone at a corner table, her coat draped over the chair, both hands wrapped around a cup of mint tea that had already gone cold. Naomi had insisted she meet someone who might help, but not the way you think. Lauren had been hesitant. After everything, trust felt like a luxury she could no longer afford. Then the matron appeared. Mr. Sterling is ready for you. Gabriel Sterling stood as she approached. Tall, broad-shouldered, composed, his presence filled the room without demanding it. He wore a charcoal suit, the kind tailored in silence, not vanity. On the table beside his Mont Blanc pen rested a single document folder and 2 plates of untouched crème brûlée. Miss Hayes, he said quietly, offering his hand. Thank you for coming. Lauren hesitated before shaking it. His grip was firm, steady, not possessive, not pitying. She sat down. I know this feels strange, Gabriel continued, but after what happened at the plaza, I couldn't stay silent. What your husband did wasn't just cruel, it was calculated. Her eyes narrowed. You were there? He nodded once. I was an investor in Reed Technologies before he went public. I saw how he built everything on optics and manipulation. When I saw him announce a model instead of his pregnant wife, I understood he wasn't launching a partnership. He was erasing a liability. Lauren's throat tightened. You think I'm a liability too? Gabriel leaned forward slightly. No, I think you're the only part of that story that was real. For a moment, silence filled the space between them, broken only by the sound of jazz playing faintly in the background. She tried to steady her breathing. Why help me? You barely know me. He smiled faintly. Because I know him, and because no one should have to fight someone like Carter Reed alone. He slid the folder toward her. Inside were photocopies of transaction receipts, Company expenses marked as brand consultancy and image partnership fees, all linked to Sloan Vega. Naomi had been right. The proof existed. Lauren looked up, startled. "How did you get these?" "Anonymous tips," he said, eyes steady. "But if you use them carefully. I'm not offering revenge. I'm offering leverage." Her gaze drifted to the window. Outside, the city lights rippled in the river's current, just like her life, unsteady but moving. She whispered, "Leverage doesn't fix a broken home." "No," Gabriel replied softly, "but it gives you the power to decide what comes next." Their waiter arrived, refilling her tea. She noticed Gabriel's wrist, an old leather watch, not flashy, a man who didn't need gold to prove his worth. "You seem like someone who doesn't do charity," she said cautiously. He met her eyes. "I don't. I invest in things that matter." For the first time in weeks, she smiled. Small, tired, but real. When they stepped outside, snow crunched beneath their shoes. The bridge lights glowed above, casting silver over the river. Gabriel turned to her. "There's a clinic uptown that specializes in high-risk pregnancies. My family foundation supports it. I can make the call." Lauren hesitated. "You don't owe me that." He shook his head. "No, but you and your children deserve a safe start." The wind carried the faint scent of the river, cold, honest, alive. She looked up at the Manhattan skyline and whispered, "Maybe this city isn't done with me yet." Gabriel smiled slightly. "Maybe it's just starting to notice you." As she stepped into the waiting car, she didn't realize that this quiet dinner would become the first ripple in a storm that would soon upend everything Carter Reed thought he controlled. And from the bridge above, the lights of Manhattan shimmered, like destiny watching her take her first real step forward. The morning sun sliced through the glass towers of Wall Street, painting long shadows across the boardroom of Reed Technologies. Carter Reed stood at the head of the mahogany table, surrounded by investors, publicists, and advisors. A giant screen behind him flashed headlines from last night's gala, his arm around Sloan Vega, his grin perfect, his betrayal immortalized. "Look at the engagement numbers," Carter said, smirking as he scrolled through analytics on his iPad. "Our rebrand went viral. We've added 30,000 followers overnight. This is how you turn a personal narrative into market confidence." His PR chief, a woman named Jenna, shifted uncomfortably. "The problem, sir, is that your personal narrative has a heartbeat. The wife you left. People are starting to talk." Carter's jaw tensed. "She's irrelevant. I told you to scrub her presence from all press photos. Keep the focus on Sloan." But the tabloids picked up a shot of her outside the plaza. "It's trending on Twitter." Carter's expression darkened. "Then drown it with noise. Push new content. Post the Cartier partnership, the Beverly Hills photo shoot, whatever it takes." He didn't notice the assistant in the corner, typing notes silently, recording every word. Meanwhile, across town, Naomi Brooks sat in her modest office, surrounded by case files and coffee cups. Her phone buzzed with a message from an anonymous number. "If you want proof of Carter's misuse of funds, look at the brand invoices. Sloan Vega isn't on personal payroll. She's listed as a consultant." Naomi forwarded the message to Lauren. "It's worse than we thought. He's not just heartless, he's committing fraud." Lauren sat by the window of the small apartment Naomi had helped her rent. Snowflakes drifted outside, soft against the city noise. She placed a protective hand on her belly, feeling the twins shift. "So he paid her with company money?" Naomi nodded. "Trips, hotels, designer campaigns, all under the corporate budget. That voids your prenup. He buried you in legal traps, but he dug his own grave." Lauren stared at the city skyline. She remembered the nights she stayed up editing Carter's presentations, the weekends she canceled family trips so he could chase investors. Every sacrifice had built the empire now used to humiliate her. On Park Avenue, Carter leaned back in his leather chair, twirling a Mont Blanc pen between his fingers. "Ladies and gentlemen," he said, "we're in the business of perception. Emotions don't sell, power does. Sloan embodies the future, youth, energy, beauty." A board member cleared his throat. "And your pregnant wife?" Carter laughed dryly. "Collateral damage." The room went silent. Only the faint hum of the projector filled the space. He didn't notice that Gabriel Sterling's assistant had been quietly sitting in on the meeting as an observer, part of a merger negotiation that Carter desperately wanted. The assistant took notes, every word carefully documented. Gabriel had requested it personally. That afternoon, Gabriel sat in his own office overlooking the Hudson, reviewing the transcript. He read Carter's phrase twice, collateral damage. His jaw clenched. He picked up his phone and called Naomi. "This is Sterling. Tell Lauren she's not alone in this." Naomi exhaled, relief washing through her voice. "You really mean that?" "I don't make empty promises," Gabriel said, "and I don't tolerate men who confuse cruelty with power." In the quiet that followed, Lauren stared at the document Gabriel had sent earlier, the proof of Carter's deceit. It felt heavy in her hands, not just because of what it meant legally, but because it confirmed what her heart already knew. Carter's empire was built on lies. She whispered to herself, "He turned love into business. I'll turn truth into justice." Outside, the lights of Wall Street began to flicker on as dusk approached. Inside Reed Technologies, Carter lifted another glass of champagne, celebrating numbers he thought would never fall. He didn't know that the woman he erased had just found the leverage to end his kingdom. Snow melted into glittering puddles along Fifth Avenue, the street pulsing with winter shoppers and Christmas displays. Lauren adjusted her coat as she entered Maison Duthé, a quiet tea salon tucked between Tiffany & Co. and Cartier. Naomi had arranged the meeting but hadn't said with whom, only that it was important. Inside, the soft chime of porcelain cups and murmured conversations filled the air. A hostess led her to a table near the window. Waiting there was a woman who exuded the kind of calm that came from wealth too old to need proving. Her silver hair was tied neatly, pearls resting against a navy blazer. "Mrs. Sterling," Lauren greeted softly, instantly recognizing her. Eleanor Sterling, the matriarch of the Sterling family, mother to Gabriel and one of Manhattan's quiet power brokers. "Sit, my dear," Eleanor said, her tone polite but cool. "I don't drink coffee, too aggressive for my heart. Tea reminds me there's grace in stillness." Lauren smiled faintly and sat down. The teapot steamed between them, releasing the scent of jasmine. "I hear you've met my son," Eleanor began, stirring her cup, "and that he's taken quite an interest in your situation." Lauren straightened, unsure where this conversation was heading. "He's been kind, more than he needed to be." "That's what worries me," Eleanor replied, her eyes sharp. "Gabriel's kindness often walks hand in hand with recklessness. He's saved people before, only to drown in their storms." Lauren felt heat rise to her cheeks. "With all due respect, I didn't ask for saving. He offered help because he has a conscience, something your world seems to treat like a weakness." Eleanor's lips twitched into a small, approving smile. "You have spirit. Good. You'll need it. Do you know what being part of this family means, Miss Hayes?" Lauren met her gaze steadily. "Responsibility, scrutiny, expectations. I've lived that life once before, just without the money." For the first time, Eleanor looked almost surprised. "You think I measure people by money?" Lauren shook her head. "No, but your circle does. Carter's world taught me that love and image rarely survive in the same room." The older woman studied her for a long moment, then reached into her handbag and placed a small box on the table. Inside was a delicate black dress, simple, elegant, perfectly tailored. "This isn't a gift," Eleanor said. "It's an invitation. My foundation is hosting a dinner next week. If you truly want to stand beside Gabriel, you'll have to stand in front of Manhattan first." Lauren hesitated. "Why me?" Eleanor's voice softened. "Because you remind me of the woman I was before I learned to hide behind etiquette. Because you're not afraid to bleed in public, and that terrifies men like Carter Reed." Silence stretched between them, broken only by the faint sound of footsteps outside. Lauren traced her fingers along the edge of the teacup, realizing this was more than a test. It was a door. She lifted her chin. "I'll be there." Eleanor nodded approvingly, pouring more tea. "Then start by standing tall, even when your knees shake. The world respects composure more than truth. But sometimes truth is the only composure left." As Lauren left the salon, the city lights reflected off the wet pavement, casting gold halos around her steps. The black dress weighed lightly in her arms, yet symbolized something far heavier, the beginning of her return to the world Carter had stolen from her. Across the street, Gabriel waited in his car. He saw the resolve on her face and smiled quietly. She didn't need rescuing. She was already rebuilding herself, piece by piece. And somewhere high above Fifth Avenue, the first crack appeared in Carter Reed's illusion of control. Manhattan shimmered below like a sea of gold. From the rooftop of Gabriel Sterling's penthouse, the skyline looked endless, every window a pulse, every street a story. Snowflakes floated lazily in the night air. Lauren stood near the glass railing, wrapped in a wool coat Eleanor had sent her earlier that evening. The city stretched out before her, dazzling, merciless, alive. Inside, Gabriel poured 2 cups of chamomile tea. No champagne, no orchestra, just quiet. He joined her by the railing, his breath visible in the cold. "You handled my mother well," he said, a hint of a smile tugging at his lips. Lauren gave a small laugh. "I thought she might have me escorted out halfway through the tea. She's particular," Gabriel admitted. "But she respects strength." "You didn't flinch." Lauren looked down at the lights reflecting in the Hudson. "Flinching doesn't stop anything," she said softly. "It just makes people believe you're breakable." He studied her profile, calm, beautiful, but carrying the quiet weight of everything she'd lost. "You don't have to keep fighting alone." She turned toward him, searching his eyes. "You don't even know me." "I know pain when I see it," he said, "and I know integrity when it doesn't ask for attention." Silence hung between them, heavy and intimate. He reached into his pocket, not for a ring box, but for a folded sheet of paper. "I drafted something," he said carefully. "It's a private agreement, no lawyers, no publicity. It says that if we join our lives, you remain independent. Your assets, your choices, your voice, all yours." She blinked, startled. "Join our lives?" Gabriel exhaled. "Lauren, I'm not offering a rescue. I'm offering partnership. Marriage, if you'll allow it. Not because of pity, because I want to build something real, something safe, for you and for the twins." Her heart pounded. "You can't be serious." "I don't do anything halfway." She stepped back, confused. "This isn't the right time. I'm pregnant, broken, alive," he interrupted gently, "and more courageous than anyone I know." The city wind caught her hair, brushing it across her face. "People will think you're marrying me out of revenge," she whispered. "Let them," Gabriel said. "The difference is, I don't care about perception. I care about peace." For a long moment she said nothing. The skyline glittered, car horns echoing faintly from below. Finally, she looked up at him. "If we do this, it's on my terms. No press, no staged photos, no fairy tale," he smiled. "Then it will be the most honest marriage Manhattan has ever seen." She laughed through tears. "You're impossible." "Not impossible," he corrected, handing her the document. "Just persistent." Lauren read it line by line, every word deliberate, protective, freeing. There were no traps, no power plays, no fine print written to cage her. Just equality. She folded it carefully and met his gaze. "I'll think about it." "Of course," Gabriel said softly. "But for the record, this city runs on deals. I prefer promises." Below them, the lights of Park Avenue blurred like constellations. She thought of Carter, of how their marriage began in a flurry of cameras and ended in silence. And here stood a man offering her nothing to prove, just the chance to breathe again. The wind picked up, scattering snow across the rooftop. Gabriel reached for her hand but didn't pull her close. He just stood beside her, the distance between them honest and sacred. Lauren whispered, "If I say yes, it'll be because I choose peace, not escape." He nodded. "Then say yes only when peace feels like home." And beneath the Manhattan skyline, where betrayal once broke her, a new kind of promise quietly took root. The sterile scent of disinfectant filled the room, softened only by the rhythmic hum of the ultrasound machine. Lauren lay on the cushioned table, her hands nervously clutching the thin hospital blanket. Gabriel sat beside her, clearly out of his element in the white coat world of prenatal care. His phone was off, his tie loosened. For the first time in years, business wasn't his priority. The doctor adjusted the probe and smiled gently. "All right, Mrs. Sterling, sorry, Miss Hayes. Let's take a look." Lauren's breath caught. On the black and white monitor, 2 small flickers appeared, steady and alive. 2 heartbeats, the doctor said warmly. "Congratulations, you're having twins." Her eyes welled instantly. All the fear, humiliation, and loneliness of the past months melted in one quiet moment of awe. Gabriel leaned closer, watching the tiny shapes move across the screen. He didn't speak, just smiled, his jaw tightening as if holding back emotion. Lauren whispered, "2 of them. I thought maybe the loneliness was punishment, but maybe it was making space for both." The doctor handed her the printed image. "They're strong," she said kindly. "Keep resting, eat well, and limit stress." Gabriel's gaze shifted at the word stress. He made a mental note. No more calls about Carter. No more late-night news. From now on, peace was part of her treatment plan. After the appointment, they walked through the crisp Manhattan air, the sun glinting off the glass towers. Gabriel insisted they stop at a Starbucks across the street. "You shouldn't walk too long without eating," he said. She smiled faintly. "You sound like Eleanor." "She'd probably approve of that," he replied, handing her a cup of decaf herbal tea. They sat by the window. Outside, cabs honked, life hurried. Inside, time paused. Lauren studied the sonogram in her hand, the first tangible proof that her heart could multiply even after being shattered. "You ever think about fate?" she asked quietly. Gabriel stirred his coffee. "Every day. Mostly about how it doesn't care about our plans. I used to think success was about sharing someone else's dream," she said. "Now I just want to build my own." He looked at her with that steady, unreadable calm that always made her feel safe. "Then build it," he said. "You don't need permission. Not from Carter, not from me." Her throat tightened again. "You really think I can start over?" "I don't think," Gabriel said. "I know." His words landed like a quiet promise. A notification flashed briefly on his Apple Watch. A message from his assistant. "Carter's PR firm is spinning a story about your involvement with Lauren. Shall we respond?" He ignored it, turning his wrist face down. Lauren didn't need to know. Not today. When they arrived back at the apartment, Eleanor was waiting, a rare softness in her eyes. "How did it go?" Lauren smiled and handed her the print. Eleanor's hands trembled slightly as she looked. "Two of them," she murmured. "Twins run in our family, you know." "Maybe it's a sign," Gabriel said with a grin. Eleanor glanced at him. "A sign that God still loves women who endure." That evening, Lauren sat on the couch, the city lights flickering through the window. The apartment smelled faintly of cinnamon tea and rain. She traced the outline of the sonogram, whispering to the two lives inside her. "You're my beginning, not my rescue, not my revenge, just my beginning." Across the room, Gabriel worked quietly on his MacBook, pretending not to listen. But when she said those words, he looked up, smiling to himself. For the first time in months, the air felt light, the silence warm. And somewhere inside that tiny print of two fluttering heartbeats, Lauren found proof that love, real love, was still alive. The next morning, sunlight spilled across the marble kitchen island as Lauren poured oatmeal into a bowl. She felt calmer than she had in months. But peace, she was learning, had a short lifespan in a world addicted to spectacle. Her phone buzzed. At first, she ignored it. Then Naomi's name flashed across the screen, followed by one line, "Don't panic, but Carter's PR team is moving fast." Lauren swiped the screen. The top headline on every gossip site read, "Ex-CEO's wife finds comfort in rival's arms. Was the affair the real reason for their split?" Her stomach turned. The article was full of distorted half-truths, anonymous sources, close friends, fabricated quotes about Gabriel being her savior billionaire. The final photo hit hardest, a paparazzi shot of Gabriel walking beside her after the doctor's appointment, his hand gently supporting her elbow. The caption read, "Too close for coincidence." Naomi called. "It's a coordinated smear. They're framing you as a gold digger who jumped from one wallet to another. Classic Carter Reed strategy." Lauren sat down, trembling. "He's using my pregnancy again." "That's his playbook," Naomi said grimly. "Control the story, control the sympathy. But listen, this time he overplayed. He used corporate media accounts to push the narrative. That's company property. I can trace it." Gabriel walked in just as she hung up. His phone had already been blowing up with calls from investors and reporters. "Lauren," he said, voice steady, "don't look at the news. It's all noise." "I already did," she whispered. "They're calling me a scandal." He set his phone down and knelt in front of her. "Look at me. You're not a scandal. You're a mother. You're a survivor. Don't let his lies rewrite who you are." Her eyes filled, but people believe him. They always do. "Then we show them truth," Gabriel said. "But not yet. Timing is everything." He stood and walked to the window, watching the skyline. "Carter thrives on chaos. He wants you rattled so you'll make a mistake. But there's one thing he doesn't understand. Calm people win wars." Lauren exhaled shakily. "You sound like you've fought a few." He smiled faintly. "More than I wanted to. But this one's different." Later that day, Naomi arrived with a laptop. "You'll want to see this," she said, connecting it to the TV. "Carter's campaign with Sloan just launched. They're selling him as the face of second chances and reinvention. The commercial played. Carter in a white shirt, sleeves rolled up, walking along a beach with Sloane in a flowing dress. The tagline read, "Love rebuilt stronger." Lauren stared at the screen, jaw tight. He's rewriting history while I'm still living the pain. Naomi smirked. Then let's make him choke on his own narrative. She showed them a folder labeled Unauthorized Expenses. Inside were receipts from Carter's corporate accounts, 5-star hotels in Beverly Hills, jewelry invoices, even first-class tickets for Sloane under a fake consulting title. "I've confirmed it," Naomi said. "He's using investor money for personal indulgence. That's not scandal, it's fraud." Gabriel's expression hardened. "Get me copies. Quietly. I'll make sure the right people see them when the time comes." Lauren hesitated. "I don't want revenge." "You're not getting revenge," Gabriel said gently. "You're reclaiming truth." That night, as the city buzzed outside, Lauren sat by the window, her reflection faint in the glass. She touched her stomach, whispering to the twins, "I won't let him turn us into his story again." Behind her, Gabriel was on the phone, speaking in calm tones to someone on Wall Street. The man who once represented power now used it to defend her peace. Outside, the digital billboard above Times Square flickered with Carter's smiling face beside Sloane. But somewhere high in a quiet apartment, his next headline was already being written, by the woman he thought he'd erased. Beverly Hills was soaked in California sun, every palm tree standing like it was posing for a photo shoot. Sloane Vega stood on the marble terrace of her rented villa, dressed in silk pajamas, phone angled perfectly to catch her reflection in the pool. Her followers waited for their morning dose of perfection, and she gave it to them. A latte, a smile, and a caption, "Love always finds the brave." But that morning, courage looked a lot like panic. Her manager stormed into the villa holding a tablet. "We've got a problem," he said. "The investors want to freeze your endorsement deal until Carter's financial audit clears. There's noise about misuse of funds." Sloane frowned, setting down her coffee. "That's not my problem." "It becomes your problem if the brand thinks you were paid with corporate money," he replied sharply. Lauren Hayes' lawyers digging around. The name hit like a slap. Lauren Hayes, the ghost that refused to vanish. Sloane tossed her hair, forcing a laugh. "She's a nobody." Her manager didn't laugh. "She's about to become a symbol." Across the country in Manhattan, Lauren sat with Naomi and Gabriel at a conference table covered in printouts and evidence. "This one," Naomi said, pointing to an invoice labeled Image Consulting, West Coast Engagement. "This paid for Sloane's entire Malibu photo shoot. That's shareholder money." Gabriel's expression was calm, but his tone was steel. "He's laundering luxury under branding budgets." Lauren hesitated. "What happens if we expose it?" Naomi looked up. "Then Carter's empire collapses. He'll lose his investors, his seat, and his name." Lauren traced her fingers across the papers. "Then it's not just business, it's justice." Later that afternoon, Gabriel received a message from an anonymous account. Attached was a video clip. Sloane, during a live stream, unknowingly caught mid-conversation with her stylist. In the clip, she laughed and said, "Carter's PR team is so desperate. They turned his wife into a campaign obstacle. Can you imagine being that outdated?" The stylist didn't answer, only glanced nervously at the camera. Gabriel hit pause. "She doesn't realize this video just buried them both." Naomi grinned. "Public sympathy's a boomerang. When it swings back, it cuts." That evening, the video leaked. Within hours, it flooded every platform. Hashtags exploding. Pregnant and erased. Sloane speaks too much. The internet turned. Comments flooded in beneath Sloane's old posts. "You destroyed a family. He left her pregnant for you? Disgusting." Carter's phone lit up like wildfire. "Get that video down," he barked at his PR team. "We can't," Jenna said, pale-faced. "It's everywhere. Even shareholders are posting it." "Then release a statement," Carter snapped. "Say it's fake." "It's verified audio, sir." He slammed his hand on the desk. The Mont Blanc pen snapped in half. "Then find a new story." But the new story had already found him. Sloane's sponsors began withdrawing. One by one, her deals fell apart. Her social media manager quit. Within 24 hours, her follower count dropped by half. At the same time, journalists dug deeper. Articles surfaced showing the overlap between Sloane's luxury expenses and Reed Technologies' company payments. Every bag, every flight, every Cartier bracelet, documented in black and white. Back in New York, Lauren watched the news in silence. Gabriel glanced at her. You could take this further. Press charges, call a press conference. Lauren shook her head. No, I don't need to humiliate him. I just want the truth to stand long enough for people to see. Naomi smiled softly. That's how you win without getting dirty. Lauren turned toward the window. The city glittered like it was exhaling. For the first time, her name wasn't whispered. It was spoken with respect. Far away, in Beverly Hills, Sloane closed her laptop and stared at her reflection in the dark screen. For once, it didn't smile back. And in that silence, the empire Carter built on beauty and lies began to crack wide open. Rain hammered against the windows of the Upper East Side apartment as thunder rolled through the night. Lauren sat on the edge of the bed, one hand pressed to her swollen belly. A sharp pain shot through her, sudden and deep. She gasped. Gabriel. Her voice trembled. He looked up from the papers scattered on the dining table, legal drafts, financial reports, and news clippings about Carter's collapsing empire. In an instant, he was at her side. Breathe, Lauren. How far apart are the contractions? 5 minutes, she said, clutching his arm. It's too early. I'm only 34 weeks. He grabbed the hospital bag already packed and called the driver. We're leaving now. Outside, lightning lit up Manhattan like a camera flash. The Mercedes S-Class cut through the storm, tires hissing across wet asphalt. Gabriel held Lauren's hand all the way, whispering calm words she barely heard through the pain. You're okay. I'm right here. Just keep breathing. By the time they reached Mount Sinai Hospital, the contractions had doubled. Nurses rushed her into the delivery ward. The scent of antiseptic, the buzz of monitors, the blinding white lights, it all blurred into chaos. Mr. Sterling, we need you to wait outside, a nurse said. He hesitated, his face tight with fear. No, I stay. Lauren turned her head, sweat beading on her forehead. It's okay. Just stay close. Don't leave. He nodded, gripping her hand as the doctor began preparing. You're strong, he whispered. You've already survived worse than this. Minutes stretched into hours. Her heartbeat raced. Then, 2 cries. Tiny, raw, perfect. The room froze. The doctor smiled beneath her mask. Congratulations, a boy and a girl. Lauren broke into sobs of relief. Gabriel's knees almost gave out as he looked at the newborns, their skin pink and wrinkled, their cries piercing the storm. He whispered something she couldn't quite hear, maybe a prayer, maybe gratitude. But the moment of peace shattered with the buzz of Gabriel's phone in his pocket. He glanced at the screen, a message from his assistant. Carter scheduled an emergency press conference. He's blaming you for corporate sabotage. Gabriel's face hardened. He's trying to deflect, he muttered. Lauren, exhausted but alert, heard him. Don't go, she pleaded. Not tonight. He kissed her forehead. I'm not leaving. Let him talk himself into his own grave. Outside, reporters were already flooding social media with clips of Carter standing behind a podium, drenched in arrogance and desperation. This attack on my company, he said, was orchestrated by a jealous competitor and his mistress. The words sliced through the air like glass. Within minutes, Naomi texted Gabriel a single line. Sit tight, we're countering. Back in the hospital, Lauren watched her babies in the incubator, tubes and sensors fragile against their skin. Her tears came quietly this time, not of pain, not of defeat, but of clarity. He can say what he wants, she whispered, but the truth already has a heartbeat. Gabriel took her hand. You've already won, Lauren. Not in headlines, in life. Hours later, dawn crept through the blinds. The storm had passed. The nurse placed both babies in her arms, their eyes fluttering open for the first time. She kissed their foreheads. Welcome home, she murmured. In that quiet moment, surrounded by the hum of machines and the faint smell of rain, Lauren Hayes, once erased, once humiliated, finally felt whole again. Outside, as the city woke, Carter Reed's press conference began to unravel. Reporters confronted him with evidence Naomi had leaked just hours earlier. Forged invoices, falsified expense claims, Sloane's video confession. By noon, his company stock plummeted. By evening, he would be suspended. And while his empire collapsed, Lauren held the 2 tiny reasons she no longer feared anything, not even his name. The hospital room smelled faintly of lavender and new beginnings. It had been 3 weeks since the twins' birth, and for the first time, Lauren could breathe without fear. The machines were gone, the monitors silent. 2 tiny bundles slept beside her, their chests rising and falling in sync. a rhythm that grounded her in a world she once thought would never stop spinning. Gabriel sat in the corner, laptop open on his knees, answering a muted conference call. The CEO of Sterling Capital, a man once feared on Wall Street, now whispered between baby coos. Lauren watched him from the bed, half smiling. "You've traded stocks for diapers," she teased softly. He looked up, eyes tired but warm. "These have better long-term returns," he said. She laughed quietly, careful not to wake the twins. The sound felt foreign, like a forgotten language finally returning. Eleanor Sterling entered carrying a tray of herbal tea and a soft wool blanket. "The twins are beautiful," she said, her voice softer than Lauren had ever heard it. "You're recovering well?" Lauren nodded. "I still get scared sometimes. The silence feels temporary, like something bad's waiting around the corner." Eleanor poured the tea into delicate porcelain cups. "Peace isn't fragile, dear. You are just learning to live inside it." The days blurred into gentle routines. Feedings at 2 a.m., lullabies at dawn, naps filled with tiny breaths, and sunlight streaking across the curtains. Between them, Lauren found slivers of herself she hadn't known were missing. When the babies slept, she'd curl up on the couch with her Kindle, reading Atomic Habits while sipping decaf coffee from a Starbucks cup Gabriel brought her each morning. "Small steps," she whispered to herself, turning each page. "Small steps rebuild big lives." But outside their bubble of calm, the world continued to unravel for Carter Reed. Naomi arrived one afternoon with updates. She dropped her leather briefcase on the counter and sighed. "He's officially under investigation. Misappropriation of corporate funds, falsified expense reports, ethics violations, the works. His board voted to suspend him pending trial." Lauren's hand froze on the baby bottle. "I didn't want it to go that far." Naomi met her eyes. "You didn't push it. The truth did." Gabriel listened silently from across the room. When Naomi left, he walked over and kissed Lauren's forehead. He built his empire on manipulation. Sooner or later, gravity does its job. That night, after the twins drifted to sleep, Lauren scrolled through her messages. Dozens of women had written to her, strangers who saw themselves in her story. "You made me believe healing is possible. Thank you for standing tall." Her fingers trembled as she typed back a single line. "You don't have to be unbroken to be strong." The next morning, Gabriel surprised her with something new. A small leather journal embossed with her initials. "For your thoughts," he said. "Or your next chapter." She opened to the first blank page, the smell of fresh paper comforting. Slowly, she began to write. "The day I stopped waiting for someone to save me was the day my life began." Eleanor peeked in from the hallway, smiling quietly. "You look like a woman ready to return to the world." Lauren looked up from the page. "Maybe, but this time I'll enter it on my own terms." Outside the window, Manhattan glowed gold under the morning sun. Somewhere downtown, headlines still screamed about corporate downfall and betrayal. But here, in this quiet apartment filled with baby laughter and tea steam, a different story was being written. Lauren placed her pen down and whispered to the sleeping twins, "We're safe now. That's all that matters." And for the first time since the plaza, her peace didn't feel borrowed. It felt earned. Rain streaked the office windows of Naomi Brooks's law firm, drawing crooked silver lines down the glass. It was late, almost midnight, and her desk was buried beneath folders stamped confidential. Lauren sat across from her, one of the twins asleep in her arms, the other in a bassinet beside her chair. The only light came from Naomi's MacBook and a single desk lamp, throwing long shadows across their faces. Naomi leaned back, rubbing her temples. "There's someone inside Reed Technologies who wants to talk," she said quietly. "They reached out through an encrypted email. Claims they have evidence Carter used company funds for personal gain. More than we already know." Lauren frowned. "Why now?" "Because they're scared," Naomi replied. "They've seen how he treats people who cross him, but they're ready to come forward if we can guarantee protection." Gabriel entered the office, coat still damp from the storm. He handed Naomi a USB drive. "This came to my team's anonymous tip line," he said. "Payroll spreadsheets, bank transfers, photos of receipts, all matching the Beverly Hills spending." Naomi's eyes widened. "It's the same trail I was following. Whoever sent this, they're risking everything." Lauren rocked the baby gently. "Then we protect them," she said firmly. "Nobody should lose their life for telling the truth." Gabriel studied her face. Even under exhaustion, her voice carried calm authority. "You've changed," he said softly. She smiled faintly. "Maybe I just stopped apologizing for surviving." The next day, Naomi arranged a secure meeting at a diner in Brooklyn, neutral ground. The whistleblower was a young woman named Emily Torres, Carter's former accounting assistant. Her hands shook as she stirred her coffee. "I kept copies of everything," she whispered. "I couldn't watch him destroy people anymore." Lauren leaned forward. "What made you decide to come forward?" Emily's eyes filled with tears. "When I saw that picture of you at the plaza, you looked broken, and I realized he breaks everyone he can't control." Naomi placed a recorder on the table. "You'll be under federal whistleblower protection. Once this goes public, they can't touch you." Emily nodded and slid a small folder across the table. Inside were bank records showing Carter's signature authorizing payments to Sloan Vega, labeled as marketing research. Gabriel scanned them. "This is it," he said. "This is what buries him." Emily hesitated. "Just promise me." "He won't find me." Lauren reached across the table, covering her hand. "He won't, not while we're still standing." Later that evening, back at the apartment, Lauren sat by the window with both babies asleep beside her. The city glowed in the distance, a mix of chaos and beauty. She thought of Emily, of the fear in her eyes, and realized something powerful. Carter hadn't just taken from her. He had created an army of people ready to see him fall. Naomi's voice came through on speakerphone. "I filed the preliminary motion. Once the SEC receives the documents, they'll open an investigation within 72 hours. By then, the story will be public record." Gabriel's gaze met Lauren's. "This is the point of no return. After this, his empire burns." Lauren nodded. "Then let it burn, but no one else gets hurt." She turned back toward the skyline, watching the reflection of her own face in the glass, stronger, older, calmer. She whispered, "We're not victims anymore." The twins stirred softly, one reaching out a tiny hand as if sensing her words. In that quiet, the storm outside faded to drizzle. Somewhere across Manhattan, Carter Reed slept soundly, unaware that by sunrise, the first headline of his downfall had already been drafted. And in the glow of that midnight window, Lauren realized that justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers before it strikes. The glass conference room of Reed Technologies glittered beneath the morning sun, perched high above Park Avenue like a fortress of arrogance. 12 board members sat in silence, eyes fixed on the man pacing at the head of the table, Carter Reed. His suit was immaculate, but his composure was slipping. Sweat gathered at his collar. Outside, the Manhattan skyline reflected in the windows, a reminder of everything he once owned. "Let me be clear," Carter said, voice sharp. "This so-called investigation is a smear campaign. Sterling's behind it. He wants my company. He's using my ex-wife as bait." Murmurs rippled across the table. The chairman, an older man named Harlan, raised a brow. "We've received official notice from the SEC, Carter. They're not investigating rumors. They're investigating your expense accounts." Carter's eyes darkened. "Those invoices are doctored." "Are they?" Harlan asked, sliding a folder across the table. Inside were copies of the same documents Naomi and Lauren had uncovered. Company funds funneled into luxury hotels, jewelry, and marketing consultations under Sloan Vega's name. Carter's jaw tightened. "This is manipulation." Sterling planted that. At that moment, the door opened. The room turned. Gabriel Sterling stepped in, calm, crisp, and silent as winter air. He wasn't there as an investor today. He was there as a witness. "Good morning," Gabriel said evenly. "I was invited by the board to clarify a few things." Carter sneered. "Clarify? You're the one who's been orchestrating this circus." Gabriel set his briefcase on the table and opened it. "Clarification is easy when there's proof." He slid a single flash drive toward Harlan. "Here's a digital log of all corporate transactions for the last 2 years, downloaded from Reed Technologies' internal servers. It includes timestamps, IP addresses, and authorization codes. All signed off by you, Carter." The room fell silent. The sound of the flash drive clicking into the laptop echoed like a gavel. The screen lit up, spreadsheet after spreadsheet of numbers, evidence undeniable. One board member leaned forward. "These transactions, this isn't PR spending. This is theft." Carter slammed his palm against the table. "You think a rival's data dump proves anything?" Gabriel didn't blink. "No, but Emily Torres's signed affidavit does." A murmur swept through the room. "Who's Emily Torres?" a member asked. Your former accounting assistant, Gabriel replied. The one you threatened to fire if she ever questioned your numbers. She's now under federal protection. Carter froze. For the first time, the mask cracked. She's lying. Gabriel leaned forward, voice low and steady. You built your empire on lies, Carter. But the thing about lies is they don't scale. Across the table, Harlan adjusted his glasses. We'll vote, he said firmly. Effective immediately, Carter Reed is suspended as CEO pending full investigation. All company access revoked. Carter's face went pale. You can't do this. This is my company. Harlan looked at him coldly. Was. Now it's property of the shareholders you defrauded. The security guards by the door stepped forward. Carter stood frozen, fury and disbelief warring in his eyes. You think this ends me? He snarled. I'll sue every one of you. Gabriel met his glare calmly. You can try, but first, you'll have to face the truth you ran from. As Carter was escorted out, the room exhaled. The city stretched beyond the windows, brilliant and indifferent. Later that day, Gabriel texted Lauren a single line. It's done. He's out. Lauren read it in the nursery, her twins asleep beside her. She closed her eyes, tears falling silently. For months, she dreamed of justice. Now she didn't feel triumph, just release. And high above Park Avenue, the man who once controlled her fate walked out of his own empire for the last time, finally powerless, finally seen. The sun rose over Beverly Hills, washing Sloan Vega's mansion in warm light that couldn't reach her heart. She stood before a mirror surrounded by untouched makeup brushes and half-empty perfume bottles, her reflection a stranger she no longer recognized. The villa was quiet, too quiet for someone who'd once lived off noise, cameras, and applause. Her phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Sponsors, agents, journalists, all demanding statements she didn't have the courage to give. She scrolled through her feed, watching her empire crumble in real time. Sloan Speaks Too Much still trended, but now it carried a venom she couldn't spin away. Comments flooded every post. Homewrecker, liar, gold digger. The luxury brands she'd flaunted, Cartier, Dior, even a skincare line she helped launch, had all terminated their contracts overnight. The same glossy photos that once made her millions now marked the trail of her downfall. Her manager Derek stormed into the room holding a phone and an espresso. The press wants a quote. If you don't respond, you'll look guilty. Sloan's voice was flat. I am guilty. He froze. Then fake remorse. Do the redemption arc. Cry on camera. Talk about growth. Everyone loves a comeback. She shook her head. No one forgives the woman who replaces a pregnant wife. Derek sighed. Then at least apologize. Control the damage. But Sloan wasn't listening. She stared at a framed photo of her and Carter from their first joint campaign. Him in a crisp white shirt, her in diamond earrings, both pretending it was love. Her stomach churned. He said we'd be unstoppable, she whispered. He said I'd never have to look over my shoulder again. Now all she had was silence, and the weight of his broken promises. Meanwhile, in Manhattan, Naomi and Gabriel watched the fallout unfold from his office. Her statement's coming any minute, Naomi said, scrolling through her iPad. Her PR team is panicking. Lauren sat beside them, calm but distant, rocking one of the twins in her arms. I don't hate her, she said quietly. I pity her. She traded her soul for a headline, and the headline expired. Gabriel nodded. Carter built people like brands. When they stop selling, he discards them. On the West Coast, Sloan's phone buzzed again, this time a call from Carter. She stared at his name glowing on the screen. For a long moment, she almost answered. Then she pressed decline. A second later, a text appeared. You owe me loyalty. Don't you dare speak. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard. Then she typed, you used me. We're both paying for it now. She hit send and hurled the phone across the room. The sound of shattering glass echoed through the empty house. Moments later, Derek returned, breathless. CNN just released it. The SEC froze Reed Technologies' assets. Carter's under investigation. It's over. Sloan sank into the couch, eyes vacant. No, she whispered, it's finally beginning. That afternoon, she posted a video. No filters, no lighting, no glamour. Just her in a gray sweatshirt, bare-faced. I owe an apology, she said to the camera. Not for falling in love, but for helping someone destroy a woman's life. I thought I was winning. I was just another prop in his performance. The video went viral, not with hate this time, but with eerie silence. People didn't cheer her confession. They mourned her emptiness. In Manhattan, Lauren watched the clip and exhaled softly. Maybe that's her first honest moment, she murmured. Gabriel looked at her. And your last tie to that past just disappeared. Lauren smiled faintly, holding her baby closer. Good. I'm done living in someone else's story. As dusk settled over Beverly Hills, Sloane turned off her phone for the first time in years. She walked outside barefoot, the sky glowing orange, the air heavy with regret. And for the first time, she faced a sunset without a camera, just a woman watching the empire of lies finally fade to black. The courthouse on Center Street was packed, the air thick with tension and flash photography. Reporters lined the marble steps, shouting questions that bounced off the cold stone walls. Lauren, are you testifying today? Do you still have feelings for your ex-husband? Is it true the Sterling family funded your legal team? Lauren kept her gaze forward, her posture steady. Dressed in a tailored navy suit that Naomi insisted on, she looked like the version of herself Carter had tried to erase, strong, centered, untouchable. Gabriel walked beside her, a quiet wall of calm in a gray coat. Inside, the buzz of whispers followed them down the corridor like a storm. Naomi met them outside the courtroom, files tucked under her arm, her voice low but fierce. He's coming in with a full defense team. Expect them to play dirty. Lauren nodded. That's all he knows. Inside, the courtroom hummed with restrained chaos. Carter Reed sat at the defendant's table, his perfect hair and crisp suit unable to hide the exhaustion etched into his face. The arrogance that once carried him through boardrooms was gone. His lawyers flanked him, flipping through binders filled with excuses. When the judge entered, the room stood. Cameras clicked. Carter avoided Lauren's gaze. Case number 2406, the clerk read. Reed Technologies versus Carter J. Reed, civil and corporate misconduct. Lauren's palms sweated, but she didn't falter. She took the stand when called, her heart pounding as she placed a hand on the Bible. Do you swear to tell the truth? I do. Naomi began gently. Miss Hayes, could you tell the court how your name became connected to Mr. Reed's company funds? Lauren's voice was steady. I didn't take anything. I built everything beside him. Presentations, investor meetings, PR strategies. I just didn't know he was using the same company money to pay for his affair. Murmurs rippled through the courtroom. Naomi displayed copies of the invoices, each stamped with Carter's digital signature. Did Mr. Reed ever deny authorizing these payments? Lauren looked directly at her ex-husband. Not to me. He just said they were necessary costs for the brand. Carter's lawyer objected, but the judge overruled. Naomi continued. What did you lose as a result of these actions? Lauren took a slow breath. My home, my dignity, my faith in people. But I gained something too. The understanding that silence protects the wrong side. Even the judge seemed to pause at her words. When Carter's turn came, he straightened, smirking faintly. I never misused funds. I was expanding the company's marketing reach. The woman sitting there, he nodded toward Lauren, has a history of dramatizing things for attention. She's angry because I moved on. Gasps echoed through the courtroom. Naomi's tone turned razor sharp. Mr. Reed, are these your initials on Exhibit B? He hesitated. Yes, but... And this bank transfer for $48,000 labeled brand collaboration? That's a private jet to Los Angeles where you and Miss Vega were photographed the next day. Is that coincidental? Carter's composure cracked. You're twisting things. We're uncovering them, Naomi replied coolly. The judge banged the gavel. Enough. The evidence speaks for itself. As the session ended, Carter turned toward Lauren, his voice a low hiss. Enjoy the show. It won't last. She met his glare with calm resolve. Neither did your lies. Outside, the wind carried the sound of reporters shouting her name, but Lauren didn't flinch. Gabriel waited by the courthouse steps, phone in hand. The judge's recommendation will hit the press within the hour, he said quietly. You did it. Lauren smiled faintly. No, we did it. Naomi joined them, slipping her sunglasses on. He'll probably appeal, she said. Lauren looked at the gray Manhattan sky. He can keep fighting, but this time he's fighting truth. As they walked away from the courthouse, the cameras followed. But for the first time, the lens told a different story. The woman once humiliated in headlines was now the headline itself. Proof that even in a world of power and deceit, integrity could still win. The gala ballroom at the Manhattan Ritz-Carlton glowed like molten gold. Crystal chandeliers threw reflections across the polished floors. Violins hummed softly. and the city's elite gathered under one roof. Executives, philanthropists, and familiar faces from the business pages. It was the annual New York Healthcare Foundation dinner, the same event Lauren had once attended years ago as Carter's silent accessory. Tonight, she was returning under a different name, Lauren Hayes Sterling. She stood near the entrance, clutching a modest clutch, the black gown Eleanor had chosen fitting her like quiet armor. Gabriel adjusted his tuxedo beside her, eyes full of pride. "You ready?" he asked. Lauren inhaled deeply. "I'm not sure anyone's ever ready to face ghosts in the same room," he smiled. "Then face them anyway." Eleanor approached, elegant in a silver dress, offering her arm. "The moment you walk through that door, you stop being what they said you were. You start being what you became." The doors opened. The murmurs began instantly. Heads turned, whispers rippled, some in awe, some in disbelief. "Is that her? The ex-wife? She looks radiant." Lauren smiled politely as flashes of cameras caught her face. For the first time, the attention didn't burn, it illuminated. She was no longer someone's scandal. She was her own story. The evening unfolded with toasts, laughter, and the soft clinking of glasses. Lauren took her seat at a table near the stage, across from hospital executives and charity directors. Her foundation, funded partly by the Sterlings, was being recognized for its maternal health initiatives. When her name was announced, the applause was warm, genuine. She rose, heart pounding but steady. Naomi, seated nearby, mouthed, "Go get them." Lauren stepped onto the stage, the microphone catching her breath before her words. "I used to think strength meant silence," she began. "That dignity meant enduring quietly, even when the world mistook cruelty for confidence. But I learned that silence doesn't protect, it imprisons. Tonight I stand not because I'm fearless, but because I'm finally free." A hush fell over the crowd. She continued, voice calm yet fierce. "There was a time when I was told that motherhood made me a liability, that compassion had no place in ambition. But compassion, real compassion, is power. It builds what greed destroys." She paused, letting the words settle. Cameras flashed, but for once she didn't mind. "This foundation isn't just about healthcare. It's about giving women a chance to rebuild, to stand again when the world tries to silence them." When she finished, the audience rose in a standing ovation. Gabriel's hands were the first to clap. Eleanor's eyes glistened with pride. Even Naomi, ever the composed lawyer, wiped away a tear. As Lauren left the stage, a woman approached her. A young journalist with trembling hands. "Miss Sterling," she said softly, "I used to intern at Reed Technologies. I saw what they did to you. Thank you for surviving out loud." Lauren smiled gently. "That's the only kind of surviving worth doing." Across the room, Carter's former investors sat quietly, watching. A few even clapped, awkwardly at first, then sincerely. Reputation had shifted. The narrative was no longer his to control. Later that night, Gabriel found her on the balcony overlooking Central Park. The city glimmered below like 1,000 untold stories. He draped his jacket over her shoulders. "You were magnificent," he whispered. Lauren laughed softly. "I was terrified." "That's what made it real," he said. "You didn't perform, you lived." She turned to him, eyes reflecting the city lights. "Do you think this is it? The ending?" He shook his head. "No, it's the beginning written in your own handwriting." Below them, the sound of applause still echoed through the ballroom, and for the first time the woman once humiliated beneath chandeliers stood beneath them as her own light, brighter, stronger, untouchable. The city had quieted into the hush that only came after midnight. Rain misted over the glass windows of the Sterling penthouse, turning the Manhattan skyline into a watercolor of gold and gray. Inside, the twins finally slept, soft breathing filling the nursery. Lauren sat on the couch, curled in one of Gabriel's sweaters, sipping chamomile tea from a white porcelain cup. For once, her world felt still. Then the phone rang. The sound pierced through the calm, a vibration against the marble counter, trembling like a warning. She glanced at the screen. Unknown number. Normally she would have ignored it, but something in her chest told her to answer. "Hello?" For a few seconds, silence. Then a voice she hadn't heard in months, hoarse, tired. "Lauren, it's me." Carter, her hand went cold around the cup. "What do you want?" He let out a bitter laugh. "You sound different, stronger. Guess the billionaire life suits you." She didn't reply. In the background she could hear muffled noise. A bar? No, an empty apartment. Bottles clinking, the sound of defeat. I thought I'd call, he said, his tone slurred but uneven. Everything's gone. The board froze my assets. The investors want my head. Sloan left. The house is empty. I don't even have my name anymore. Lauren stared at the city lights, heart steady. That's not my problem. I know, he said softly. But it used to be. You used to care. She swallowed hard. I cared until you made caring look like weakness. There was a pause. You think I don't regret it? He asked. You think I planned for it to end like this? I didn't know how to stop needing to win. Her voice was quiet, almost kind. You didn't need to win, Carter. You needed to be decent. He laughed again, bitter this time. Maybe. But decent doesn't build empires. And greed doesn't keep them, she said. The rain thickened outside, streaking down the glass like tears she refused to shed. Carter's voice softened, almost human. I saw the gala on TV. You looked happy. I am, he hesitated. Do they, your kids, look like me? Lauren closed her eyes. They look like themselves. That's all that matters. Another long silence stretched. Then, unexpectedly, his voice broke. I don't know who I am without all of it. Maybe that's the point, she said. Now you get to find out. I don't deserve that chance. No, she said gently, but you can still take it. For the first time, he didn't argue. He just breathed, slow and uneven. I'm sorry, Lauren, for everything. You didn't deserve what I did to you. Her throat tightened, but her words stayed calm. You're right. I didn't. But if you're looking for forgiveness, you'll have to earn it yourself. She heard him exhale, a sound that carried both pain and surrender. Goodbye, Lauren. Goodbye, Carter. The line went dead. Lauren set the phone down, her hands trembling slightly. Not from anger this time, but from release. She had waited months for this moment, and now that it came, she didn't feel triumph or bitterness, only peace. Gabriel appeared in the doorway, sleepy-eyed in his t-shirt. Everything okay? She nodded, wiping her eyes. Yeah, just closure. He sat beside her, pulling her into his arms. You don't owe the past anything. I know, she whispered, resting her head on his chest. But sometimes you still have to say goodbye to it. Outside, the rain slowed, and dawn began to tint the clouds a faint pink. Lauren watched the light shift across the skyline, feeling the final thread of her old life unravel quietly. And somewhere across the city, a man who once had everything finally understood what it meant to have nothing, while the woman he'd broken learned what it meant to have enough. Los Angeles glimmered under a merciless afternoon sun. The city that once worshipped Carter Reed's name now treated it like a cautionary tale whispered between business lunches. Billboards that had once flaunted his face were replaced by new campaigns, new CEOs, new success stories. Reed Technologies was officially in liquidation, its assets divided like bones. Carter sat alone at an outdoor cafe in Beverly Hills, wearing sunglasses to hide the hollow circles beneath his eyes. The waiter recognized him but said nothing. Fame, like coffee, grows cold when it's no longer served. He scrolled through his phone, news headlines flashing like slow torture. SEC confirms full audit, Carter Reed to face federal charges. Ex-model Sloan Vega breaks silence. Former CEO spotted alone in LA from power to pariah. Each one hit like a bruise. He tossed the phone aside and stared at his reflection in the coffee cup, gray around the temples, lines carved deep by stress. He had everything once, the empire, the woman, the illusion. Now, all he had was the noise of his own mistakes. The cafe door opened, and Sloan stepped out, cautious as though testing the air. She looked smaller than he remembered, bare-faced, wrapped in an oversized denim jacket, hair tied back. He froze. You shouldn't be here. I live 3 blocks away. No, she said quietly. Relax. I'm not here for drama. He gave a bitter laugh. That's all we ever were. Sloan took a seat across from him, studying his face. You look tired? Try losing everything you ever used to define yourself. She didn't flinch. Maybe that's what you needed. Carter's jaw tightened. You think I deserve this? I think we both do, she said softly. We built our lives on someone else's pain. You called it strategy. I called it love. Turns out we were both lying. The silence that followed was heavy. For the first time, there was no performance between them. No lights, no cameras, no power to trade. Just 2 people staring at the wreckage they created. I saw her speech, Sloan said finally. Lauren's. At the gala. Carter's gaze shifted. Yeah, I watched it too. She didn't even mention your name. He nodded slowly. That's how you know she really won. A laugh escaped her, hollow but sincere. She looked happy, peaceful. She earned it, he said quietly. We took her peace. She built it back without us. For a moment, the wind rustled through the palm trees, carrying the faint hum of traffic and new beginnings. Sloane stood, adjusting her jacket. I'm leaving LA, maybe Paris, maybe nowhere. I need to learn who I am when nobody's watching. He stared down at his coffee. You think I can do that too? You could, she said, then hesitated. But first, you'll have to stop believing you're the victim. She turned and walked away. Carter didn't stop her this time. Later that evening, as dusk fell, he drove aimlessly through the city. The luxury cars, the glass offices, the billboards, all reminders of what he'd traded love for. He parked near Mulholland Drive, overlooking the glittering expanse below. For a long time, he just sat there. Then he whispered to the night, I thought power would make me untouchable. Turns out it just made me forget how to touch. No one answered. Only the faint hum of the city replied, unmoved, indifferent. He reached into his jacket, pulling out an old photo. Lauren, smiling at a picnic years ago, before everything fell apart. He'd kept it, though he never admitted why. A tear slid down his cheek. You were the only real thing I ever had, he said. Somewhere on the other side of the country, Lauren was probably putting the twins to bed, her laughter echoing softly through the Sterling apartment. And as Carter watched the last light fade from the Los Angeles sky, he finally understood. His empire didn't collapse because he lost everything. It collapsed because he never learned what mattered enough to keep. Spring had finally returned to New York, the air carrying the faint sweetness of blooming cherry trees. Central Park shimmered beneath the soft morning sun, children laughing as joggers passed by and dogs chased frisbees across the grass. Lauren pushed the twin stroller along a quiet path lined with tulips, her scarf fluttering in the breeze. Gabriel walked beside her, holding 2 small coffees and wearing that easy smile that always seemed to ground her. This place feels different now, she said, glancing around. Last time I walked through Central Park, I was scared of everyone looking at me. Now I don't care. Gabriel chuckled. That's because now they're looking at you for the right reasons. She smiled faintly. Maybe, or maybe I just stopped needing approval. They paused near the lake, where the morning light reflected off the rippling water. A man played soft jazz on a saxophone nearby, the melody floating through the air like a secret only the 2 of them could hear. Gabriel handed her one of the coffees. So tell me, he said, what's next for you? You've rebuilt your name, your foundation's thriving, the twins are healthy. What does Lauren Sterling want now? She thought for a moment, her gaze following a pair of rowboats drifting across the water. Peace, she said finally, but not the kind you hide in, the kind you live in. He nodded slowly. You've earned that. A light breeze rustled through the trees. The twins stirred in the stroller, one letting out a soft giggle. Lauren reached down, brushing her daughter's cheek with a tender hand. I used to think my story ended when Carter left, she said, but maybe that was just the prologue. Gabriel smiled. Every great story starts after the fall. They walked on until they reached a small clearing overlooking the skyline. The city looked different from here, less like a battlefield, more like a living, breathing thing. Gabriel stopped and turned to her. You know, when I first met you at the River Cafe, I thought I was helping you. She raised an eyebrow. And now? Now I realize you were the one who reminded me what purpose feels like. She laughed softly. You're getting poetic on me, Mr. Sterling. He stepped closer, his tone gentle but sure. No, just honest. For a moment, the world around them seemed to pause, the hum of the city fading beneath the rhythm of their breath. Gabriel reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. He didn't kneel, he didn't make a scene. He simply opened it to reveal a ring, elegant and simple, the kind that whispered rather than shouted. Lauren's eyes widened. Gabriel? He took her hand, his voice low. I don't want to rescue you or complete you or fix what's already whole. I just want to build a life with you, slowly, honestly, the way peace builds after a storm. Her eyes filled, tears shimmering in the sunlight. You already did, she whispered. But yes, I want that too. He slipped the ring onto her finger. The fit was perfect. The saxophone melody swelled behind them, the city breathing again, vibrant and alive. Gabriel leaned forward and kissed her forehead, then whispered, to second chances. She smiled through tears. To new beginnings. The twins laughed from the stroller as if echoing their mother's joy. They stayed there for a long time, watching the city pulse with life. The skyline glowed with morning light, and for the first time in years, Lauren didn't feel small beneath it. She felt part of it. She looked at Gabriel, her voice steady and full. "We'll teach them kindness, won't we? That success means nothing if you lose your heart along the way." He nodded, eyes soft. "That's a promise." And as the sun rose higher over Central Park, Lauren Hayes Sterling, once broken, now whole, realized her life wasn't a comeback story anymore. It was simply a love story that had finally found its home. The morning sun spilled gently through the windows of the Sterling townhouse on the Upper East Side. The smell of pancakes and freshly brewed coffee filled the kitchen. Lauren stood at the stove, hair tied up, wearing one of Gabriel's white shirts over her jeans. She hummed softly as the twins played on the floor, their laughter echoing through the house like music. It had been a year since the court hearing, a year since the headlines shifted from scandal to redemption, and for the first time, life was beautifully ordinary. Gabriel walked in, sleeves rolled up, holding a stack of newspapers. "You made the front page again," he said with a grin. "Don't worry, it's the good kind this time." She turned, mock glaring. "Please tell me it's not another billionaire power couple headline. I'm just trying to be a mom who flips pancakes without breaking them." He laughed, placing the paper on the counter. The headline read, "Lauren Hayes Sterling launches global fund for single mothers. Grace over greed." She stared at it for a moment, then smiled softly. "Grace over greed," she repeated. "I like that." "That's because it's who you are," Gabriel said, kissing her forehead before pouring himself coffee. As the twins babbled on the floor, Lauren felt a tug of nostalgia. She glanced at her wedding ring, the simple Tiffany band Gabriel had chosen, and thought of everything it symbolized. Not wealth, not status, but peace. The kind that couldn't be bought. Later that afternoon, they drove to the River Cafe, the place where it had all started. The skyline shimmered across the East River, sunlight bouncing off the glass towers of Manhattan. The same table where Gabriel once handed her that folder of evidence now held 2 glasses of sparkling water, a vase of tulips, and the gentle chaos of twin toddlers smearing crumbs across the white tablecloth. Lauren looked out the window, remembering the woman she had been that night. Pregnant, humiliated, lost. The ache that once lived in her chest was gone, replaced by something tender and full. Gabriel reached across the table, brushing a crumb from her wrist. "What are you thinking?" She smiled faintly. "That I almost didn't show up that night. That if I'd stayed home, scared and silent, I might still be living in someone else's story." He nodded. "But you didn't. You walked in. You faced everything." She glanced at him, eyes soft. "You know what's funny? I thought love was supposed to be loud, grand gestures, dramatic fights, all that chaos. But now I think real love sounds like this." He tilted his head. "Like what?" She smiled. "Like pancakes sizzling, babies laughing, silence that doesn't hurt." He reached for her hand. "Then let's keep it that way." Across town in a smaller courtroom, Carter Reed stood before a judge for his sentencing. He wore a plain suit, no cameras, no applause. The empire he built had vanished, and with it, the arrogance that once filled every room he entered. The judge read the decision calmly: probation, restitution, and a permanent ban from corporate leadership. When he stepped outside, no one waited for him. Only the sound of distant traffic and the faint echo of his own choices. For the first time, he felt the weight of his name and how little it meant. Meanwhile, Lauren and Gabriel took the twins for a walk through Brooklyn Bridge Park. The breeze smelled of salt and spring. The city pulsed around them, alive and forgiving. Lauren lifted her daughter into her arms, whispering softly, "You'll never have to earn your worth. You were born with it." Gabriel smiled beside her. "You should put that on the foundation's wall." "Maybe I will," she said, right next to the line that started it all. "Don't confuse silence with weakness." As the sun dipped behind the skyline painting the river gold, Lauren looked around at her life. No longer a battlefield, but a home. And in that quiet, glowing moment, the story that began with betrayal ended with grace. Proof that sometimes the sweetest revenge is simply living well, loved, and free. So that's how our story ends. But if you're still here watching until this moment, then maybe, just maybe, something in this story touched your heart. And that means it wasn't just about Lauren, Gabriel, or Carter. It was about all of us. Life has a way of breaking us down before it teaches us what truly matters. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, the obstacle is the way. Sometimes the pain we run from becomes the path that leads us home. Lauren's journey reminds us that losing everything isn't the end. It's the start of rebuilding with truth, grace, and self-respect. No matter what betrayal, loss, or silence you faced, remember this: peace is not found in revenge. It's found in rising again, quietly, powerfully, on your own terms. So take a breath, forgive what hurt you, and start again, stronger, calmer, wiser. And if this story reached you, if it helped you believe that healing is possible, then give this video a like, share it with someone who needs hope tonight, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Because here, we don't just tell stories, we remind you that you can always begin again, 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 always begin.